Have you ever stopped to think about what's happening behind the scenes when you tap your credit card, or book a flight, or even just check your bank balance? Well, there's this powerful, totally invisible engine that runs our modern world. And in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on that engine, the database. Okay, let's just start with a puzzle. Seriously, think about this for a second. You've got thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people all across the country, maybe all over the world, hitting up ATMs. They're all trying to get into their accounts at the very same bank at the very same time. How on earth does that system handle all of that at once without just creating total chaos, mixing up balances, or just crashing and burning? We are definitely gonna answer that and a whole lot more. First, we'll reveal that invisible engine I was talking about. Then, we'll break down the basic building blocks. What data even is. After that, we'll get into the fun stuff, the incredible superpowers of a database, and yeah, the price you have to pay for all that power. We'll also meet the people who keep these things running, and finally, we'll see why everyone says data is the new gold. So the answer to our big ATM puzzle, the hero of our story, is a really powerful piece of software. It's called a database management system, or what everyone just calls a DBMS. Think of it like the ultimate air traffic controller, preventing all that digital chaos from ever happening. But before we can really appreciate what a DBMS does, we gotta get the basics down. And it all starts with understanding the really important difference between data and information. They are not the same thing. All right, let's look at data. On its own, it's just raw, unprocessed facts. You see ALI 20/8/1979 MCS1. It's just a jumble of stuff, right? It doesn't mean a whole lot. But the moment we add some context, labels like name, age, and class, boom, that raw data transforms into something way more powerful, meaningful information. So how does a database know how to organize everything and add that structure? Well, it uses something called a schema. The easiest way to think about a schema is as the architectural blueprint for the whole database. It tells the system exactly what kind of data to expect for each field. Like, hey, this field is a name, it's going to be text, and it can't be more than 25 characters long. And that brings us right back to the star of the show, the DBMS. The database management system is the actual software that takes that blueprint, the schema, manages all the data according to those rules, and, crucially, controls who gets to see it and what they're allowed to do. It's like a super librarian in charge of a massive, critical digital librarian. So what does the super librarian actually do for us? I mean, why go through all this trouble? Well, a DBMS comes with some pretty incredible superpowers. We're talking about things like data consistency, so no conflicting information messes things up. You get way better security. It actually makes developing new apps faster. You get economy of scale, because the data can be shared. And most importantly for our example, you get amazing concurrency control and way better backup and recovery options. And this first superpower, concurrency, brings us right back to our opening question. This is the magic that lets thousands of people use those ATMs at the exact same moment, all hitting the same central database without a single error or delay. The DBMS just handles every single request, keeps it all straight, and does it flawlessly. Next up is security, and this is a big one because every single request to see your data or change it has to go through the DBMS. It acts as the ultimate central gatekeeper. It checks the ID of who's asking, and it makes sure they have permission to do what they're trying to do. This is absolutely critical for protecting your sensitive information, like all your banking details. Okay, but what happens when things go completely wrong? A server crashes, power goes out. Well, the DBMS provides this amazing safety net. It's constantly doing regular backups automatically. So if there's a disaster, not only can it restore the data from the last backup, it can often even recover transactions that happened in between backups, which means almost nothing is ever lost for good. All right, these superpowers sound fantastic, right? But as you can probably guess, this kind of power doesn't just come for free. There are some pretty significant costs involved when you're running a professional database system. First off, there's the high initial cost. You're buying expensive, specialized software, you need really powerful computers to run it on, and you need to hire highly skilled and highly paid staff to manage it all. Second, there's the conversion cost. Just moving all your data from an old system to the new one is a massive, expensive project. And third, while recovery is a superpower, it's a difficult one to use. Restoring a crashed database is a super complex, highly technical job that requires real experts. So who are these experts? Who are the people behind the curtain making all this magic happen? Let's meet the different types of users who work with these complicated systems every single day. There are basically three main roles here. You've got the application programmer. That's the person who actually builds the apps, like your banking app, that talk to the database. Then you have the end user. Hey, that's you, the person who actually uses those apps. And finally, you have the database administrator, or DBA. This person is the ultimate guardian, responsible for the entire system from top to bottom. Now, even in that end user group, there are a couple of types. Most of us are what you'd call naive users. We just use the app the way it was designed. But then you have sophisticated users. These are people with more technical skills who can get to the data in other ways, maybe for analysis. And that requires a much deeper understanding of how the database actually works. And what about that ultimate guardian, the DBA? What's their day look like? Well, their job is incredibly demanding. They're the ones defining that blueprint, the schema. They grant and monitor who gets access to what. They perform those critical backups. And they are constantly watching the system's health, everything from how much disk space is left to making sure all the automated jobs are running perfectly. They keep the whole thing secure and functional. Okay, so we've seen the tech, we've met the people, but let's zoom all the way out. Why do companies and organizations invest so much money, time, and effort into all of this? Well, it's because data has become one of the most valuable resources on the entire planet. You know, the source material we're looking at puts it perfectly. It says, data is a very important resource and is very much valuable for any organization. Organizations cannot make good and effective decisions if the required data is not available in time. It's as simple as that. Bad data or no data leads to bad decision. See? It all connects. You get good data, you manage it properly with a DBMS, and it becomes good information. And good information allows people, especially leaders, to make good, effective decisions. That simple chain reaction is why data is now considered just as vital to a company as its buildings, its machines, or even its people. And that leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. We've seen just how powerful and valuable these systems are. Our entire digital life, from our money to our health records to our social lives, it all runs on data managed by these complex engines. So, as this resource gets more and more central to everything we do, the really big question becomes, who should ultimately be responsible for protecting it all?